Nothing like technology. Hi, guys, and welcome to day 5. Goodness me, Friday, the end of another week. And today's topic is the story. And it's been slightly influenced today by a clip that I watched this morning. I'm blaming Stephen Bartlett for this. Uh, and it just suddenly resonated with me. And I thought I have to try and weave this in this morning because he was talking about the compounding effect of the small stuff. And it got me going off on a tangent, and I've been scribbling notes and changing what I wanted to share with you this morning. But I wanted to start off with an exercise, and I kind of hinted at it in the post details. Stop and think for a moment. And if you're anything like me, you will have more than one person. But think of someone that you know who has a reason or always has an answer for why they didn't achieve their goal, for why they're not where they want to be, for why they feel that their life isn't going in the direction that they want it to. And I'm not talking about people who've got genuine issues in their life. You know exactly what I mean. It's the story, the person with the story. It's rarely a sentence. It's not, I'm just having a rough time right now. I'm getting a divorce, or I'm having a rough time right now. I had a loss in the family. It's a story, and it's well rehearsed. And one of those people is me. And probably, if you're honest, one of those people is yourself. Now, you may not share that story with other people, but you're probably sharing it with yourself on a regular basis. And it's the subtlety of this story that has such damaging effects. Now, this idea of having this well rehearsed story also ties in quite neatly. We talked about identity, it's very strongly related to our identity and what we believe and what we feel about ourselves. And this is why we have to be careful about the language that we use. And this whole idea of these lives building for 7 days is to give us some momentum and give us a reason why we need to start thinking about the subtlety of the language that we use. We're often, it's like I said the other day, people are saying to me, I'm fine, I'm good. I don't need help with the language and the way I talk about myself. And the alarm bells go off for me because I always think that if you feel there's nothing going on that you can't improve on, there probably is something you need to improve on or enhance. And let's change the language there because improvement implies that you're not okay right now. And I'm calling myself out there. We want to be looking at how we can grow and expand the use of our language. So this whole thing with Stephen Bartlett this morning took me off on this tangent. So we've got a story. We've got a story that will say, well, things have been really tough. I mean, it started off this year. I got this happened and then that happened. And then, of course, and it just grows and grows and grows. And unfortunately, often the people we tell it to, even if it's ourselves, we reinforce that storytelling because we throw in we throw in words like, yeah, I get it, I understand. And this person, or even ourselves, we're inadvertently reinforcing this storytelling behavior. And it's very hard for us, especially if we're compassionate, caring people, to end someone's story that they are stuck on. So have a think about that person. Have a think about the story that they tell. And if it's yourself, think about it in terms of the language that you are using that inadvertently is limiting your potential to leave that story behind. If we're constantly talking about, well, I've always had weight issues, for example, or I've always struggled to get enthusiastic about fitness, that is simply reinforcing that belief and that identity that you are someone who has problems with exercise. And you'll get the people that saying it's just semantics. And interestingly enough, I recall, that great book from years ago, and I think it was Neil Donald Walsh who wrote, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And I thought, we've been told to not sweat the small stuff, but we haven't been told not to not notice it. And the behavior analyst in me is going, we need to discriminate between the small stuff that we need to notice and do something about versus the small stuff we need to let go of. We need to think about, what do we need to let go of and what do we need to actually support us moving forward. And his brilliant example, and I'm going back to Stephen Bartlett now, wasn't a language one, but it was a behavior one, brushing your teeth. He said, one time doesn't matter. 5 years, you're going to notice the impact. So think about it in terms of it's those small daily actions, the small daily use of certain words that over time erode our confidence, erodes our feelings of self-worth, and erodes our belief in ourselves and what is possible. If we are constantly saying, I struggle with this, or I find this difficult, or this always seems to happen to me, repeated. It's not just semantics. It is vital if we want to shift and we want to improve, grow, expand our language about ourselves, because that is the self-care. So the toothbrushing, yes, there's going to be quite clear, obvious issues if we haven't brushed our teeth for 5 years. I think he describes we're going to be sitting in the chair screaming at the dentist, which was enough to make me get up and go and brush my teeth straight away before this live. But in terms of the language we use around ourselves, it may not be as obvious to other people. We may appear to be fine, but this is the stuff that stops us following our dreams, pursuing our passions. I've seen a couple of things pop up recently, ask that person out, that person who is in your life that you're too scared to. Why are you too scared to? Because of the years of the way you've talked about yourself, you've diminished yourself, you've limited your capacity to step outside and do something scary. And it all starts with how we see ourselves, which starts with how we talk to ourselves, talk about ourselves. And if we can readdress, reframe, rebuild our story, we are on the track to shifting what we are capable of. And Stephen talked about that compounding effect, and I remember years ago listening to that story of if you place a bet on the golf course, and I'm gonna I'm gonna totally ruin it now, but somebody will say, oh, let's double or nothing, I think it is, and you just think, oh yeah, 18 rounds, that's fine, so every time you lose, you pay, you bet on, I can't remember exactly how it works now, I'm going to ruin the story, but essentially, if you placed a bet on each hole on the golf course from a compounding point of view, I need to go away and research this now, do the maths, by the time you get to the 18th hole, you're bankrupt, kind of. It's thousands, it's not just a minute amount, because each winning on each hole is compounding. And Stephen talked about the tipping point. He didn't actually mention that word, but it is a tipping point when suddenly You go from I'm not noticing any difference to, oh my gosh, I'm noticing a massive difference. And I've shared this with, people going through that weight loss. You just think, oh my gosh, nothing's shifting. The scales aren't moving. I don't feel any different. But you forget that all that behavior and that self talk is compounding, and then suddenly you will notice a difference. And we know this. We just know this stuff. We don't need to be doing more research. We need to be applying what we know, and that is the small stuff compounds. My little bit of input here is learning to discriminate between the small stuff that makes a difference and compounds and the small stuff that we can let go of. Because what we've tended to do is we generalize, and our stories are a classic example. We generalize the small stuff to every area of our life. Because I've struggled with weight, that means I'm going to struggle with everything in my life. Because I find it difficult to do this, that means I generally struggle with stuff. And we need to start discriminating, and we need to call ourselves out more often. And another example is letting go of other people in our lives who bring us down, who tell us small stuff that annoys us, that frustrates us. We need to let go of that and not worry about it. That's the small stuff we can let go of. But when it's us talking to ourselves, that's the small stuff we need to start noticing and shifting. Because over time, that's going to bring us down. So, lots to think about. And I will definitely post, I think I have posted the link to Stephen Bartlett's clip, because it's absolute gold and it highlights the relevance of the small stuff in our life. Thank you for listening. And don't forget, there is a link to the playlist. I've downloaded all of these lives. I'd love to get your feedback on the content. I'd love to get your feedback on your thoughts around some of the little activities I've got you to do. And if you want to access my language sheet, I have also produced a guide to language, but I have also got that self-care handout. So direct message me if you want a copy of that. If you enjoyed today, I'm back on tomorrow, and I'm back on Sunday. Sunday is the last one where I'm going to do a wrap up and share it with somebody who you think might gain from this experience. Just this reminder, share it with somebody who, just because you think it's interesting. I think there is so much more to self-care than just going for a massage or having a facial. Catch up with you tomorrow, guys. Have an awesome day.